now going to look at old school techniques versus new school techniques in our overall training philosophy. Firstly, I've trained with a lot of people in a lot of places all over the world, and I have a large amount of material. For better or for worse, that's part of my job. I need to do the research. I need to find out what's being done, what methodologies are better than others. But on the other hand, a large amount of material is counterproductive. It's better for you to have a few techniques that you train over and over and over again than to have too much. And unfortunately, that's part of my job, to do the research and development. So my opinions are often changing as well. If we have a bad training experience and it didn't go as well as we liked, and we start thinking about it, we start tweaking it, that's my role. So first of all, I want to tell you to beware of dogma. Do not take any instructor's word for this. This material is too dangerous on a certain level, and in the end, it's your life that you have to worry about. So I'm going to show you more techniques than are necessary to give you the material, and you can make the final decision based on what your training environment is, what your work environment is, if you're a peace officer, if you're living in an urban environment that has a lot of firearm crimes, things like that. So I'm going to show you the differences. I'll give you my opinions, but in the end, the statistical reality is more important. We have to do our research and see what is actually working out there, and not just listening to somebody who likes to pound his chest and talk about how tough he is. Okay, so the first major difference is the old school techniques versus the new school techniques. Old school techniques in Jiu-Jitsu are interchangeable with other techniques. Basically, in the 1850s and 1860s, when modern firearms started to be introduced into Japan, the Jiu-Jitsu instructors were already starting to make modifications. So what I'm saying here is, if someone is holding a gun at me here, or is holding a knife, a lot of the schools will teach the same technique. They would teach a wrist lock. So if this is a knife, I would prevent the cut by using this wrist lock. If it's a firearm, I can do the same thing. I was taught this exact one both in combat sambo and at one of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies. Okay, the advantage of this really only works if you are proficient with these other techniques. So if you're a Jiu-Jitsu practitioner or a martial artist of any type, and you feel very confident with this wrist lock, then that can be a sound approach, okay? And we see a lot of these locks done in old school Jiu-Jitsu. The only difference is there's a firearm at the end of it. So on a certain level, if you're doing a certain martial art and you're able to do these locks all the time and these throws, if you're a Jiu-Jitsu guy, you've already done the training. Every time you're on the mats, you're doing firearm training. As long as you're adding the element of the line of fire and the often neglected field of fire, then this interchangeability of the old school technique is good. It can help you out, provided that, of course, you're training the more numerous and complex locks and such. Now, the new school is now looking at the firearm, as a lever on the hand, particularly in modern Israeli systems, which started out with the same jiu-jitsu techniques that have been around for a long time in police and military, right through World War II and beyond, started to try to simplify these and started to look at the weapon as a lever on the hand. Okay, so that's a good approach too, and we're going to be looking at the differences where we can work directly against the gun itself. Now, the only problem with that is if you look at this as a piece of plastic or a piece of wood and not a firearm, you can dream up a lot of ways to start taking this out of the hand because it's a lever on his hand. As long as, once again, you're factoring in the fear and the trepidation and, of course, the field of fire idea, then you'll start to reduce these. You know, you can figure out 3,000 different ways to take this away, but if you're not moving it from your face, you're going to lose an eye. Okay, so that's the difference between the old school and the new school.